Hey everyone, we are live on the Overland podcast. All things outdoors and overland, walking, whatever you want to do, that's what we do. And I am very excited to talk to. Uh, I'm kind of starstruck right now. I really am. I tell you what, when Francesca reached out to me and asked me if I would be glad to have you on, I had to take a breath a minute. It was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing time. I followed you for a while, huge fan, and to be able to get your book and read it, and get to know a little bit more about you, that's been a pleasant thing. So, Glenn, thank you for joining us on the show. Super delighted for you to be here, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Really do.
Yeah, my pleasure. I always enjoy meeting new people, and that is the one thing. I'm, as my wife says, I'm a man of few words, so the podcasts have been a stretch for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially alive is like, yeah, that's exciting to me. But um, I've made so many new friends through the podcast, so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful to be here with you.
Well, it's a great day that we live in with the technology and be able to spread the word, especially when you've got a new book out. You know, in the old days, you'd have to send out things through mail and cold call people, but now you've got the internet. You can get the word out, do podcast, and got a great website, and so it's good. It's easy to get the words out without having to do a whole lot of talking. So, but the podcast is a new thing. I've been doing it for about 4 years now, and we're on season 7, and it's been a joy. And I've been able to meet quite a few people as well doing this. Now, you've recently returned from a trip to Iceland. How was that?
That was awesome. It's this was a trip put on by John Mackey,
Hmm.
co-founder of Whole Foods Market, and the guy who rescued Gossamer Gear. And he likes to. He's obviously got. He's wealthy, and he likes to spend time with his friends. Likes to spend time hiking with his friends,
Mm,
and so he plans trips and invites his friends, and all you have to do is get yourself there, and everything else is covered.
that's
So
neat.
it's great. It's a great group of people. A lot of the people we knew before. This trip was split into two kind of different trips. John's a very avid hiker, backpacker,
Hmm.
very light and very fast hiker. A little less fast than he was years ago, but he's a solid hiker. Done a lot of miles. I think he's working on his third time through the Appalachian Trail.
Wow.
Um, and so this was he has different sets of friends. Obviously, there's friends that can go out and hike all day and sleep in the dirt, and then there's other friends that want to stay in a hotel with a bed and things like
Right.
that, but
Right.
don't mind hiking during the day. So this was actually two different trips. The first one was a hike on the Landmannalaugar trek in Iceland, and then most of those people went home, and the kind of hotel inn based people showed up. And then we did kind of a week of day hikes, exploring the sites. So I was there for both. So that was nice.
Excellent. How did you like the country? Was that your first time there?
It was our first time there, other than sitting in the airport
Yeah.
once. Um, but it
Don't see
was
much in the airports. I've
no,
done
you
that
do
myself.
not. But it was interesting. Now our guides said that it was an unusual summer, so I have to take their word for it. Never been to Iceland in the summer. I was noticing, when you're someplace and you're watching all the tourist videos on
Mhm.
TVs, it's like, how did they get that shot? It's like if there's a sunny
Yeah.
day, does everyone get the drones out and you get all this footage and it's good for the rest of the year? Or what?
Yeah.
Because our guide said, and I'm not going to I'm not going to try his accent, but he said, Glenn, we have three kinds of weather in Iceland. He says we have cold, we have wind, we have rain. He says any day that you only have two out of three, that's a good day. And we had, so I was kidding him one day. I was telling him, so Solvay, is it true that if there's an actual day that we have no rain at any time during the day, that we get a full refund on that day? And he says, certainly, of course, yes.
Wow.
He would not have had to pay out a refund.
Oh my goodness. That's well the I don't know where they go to get some of the pictures and videos, but it's a beautiful country, and my wife and I have talked about going there. That's on our list. The Faroe Islands are on our list. I know that's up there, pretty close to there, but I've never seen anything in that area of the world, and that's definitely where I want to go. So when I saw that John had posted some pictures on his Instagram, that was really neat to be able to see that. Now,
Yeah,
would you want to give a little introduction of yourself? Not everybody that's listening may know the mayor of Lolo Drive, so they may want to get a little background on you, find out a little bit more about you.
sure. I'm a 66-year-old engineer. I live in Bend, Oregon with my wife of over 40 years, Francie. I have two grown sons. I had a career in land development engineering my whole life, and accidentally along the way started a backpacking company, Gossamer Gear, that I'm still involved with to this day. And yeah, I spend my time now, split between the between Gossamer Gear. We do a lot of traveling, both abroad and in our Sprinter van, our Winnebago Revel, domestically. If we could figure out a way to get him overseas in some
No
kind of
kidding.
cost efficient manner, we would definitely have some on the list.
No kidding.
Um, and yeah, right now doing podcasts and spreading the word about the book. Oh yeah, I recently wrote a book. Forget about that.
Recently
And
wrote a
I
book. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Take
wash
less, do more.
dishes in my spare time at the local bakery.
Saw that. Yeah, you got a great story. Several different stories that involve the bakery. I've got to get up there just to eat one of the things you talk about that's world famous there.
Joey, get yourself here. You can stay here at the house. We can go on. We can do some hiking, and I will buy you an ocean roll at
Oh,
Sparrow Bakery.
well, the way you describe it, I could almost taste it. And I'm a foodie. I'm a
Oh,
huge foodie. The young when we were younger and traveled, it was all about getting the souvenirs. You would get the Mickey Mouse or the stuff this or the stuff that. But the older I get, when we travel, my souvenirs are food. I like the local food, and that seems to be we did everything that we could to put a refrigerator in our Subaru so that way we could buy as much food locally that we can't get at
uh,
home and bring it back home with us. And that's just our thing. So when you started out, that was right at close to the beginning of the book. You caught me right off the bat. You talked about the ocean roll. I said I got to have one of those.
and I would mail some to you, but it's just not.
Wouldn't be the same, would
It
it?
wouldn't be the same. I mean, you have to spend $50 to send them,
Yeah.
second day, and then they're like day old. I mean, when you come here, I'll get you one, and then I'll ask them to warm it up because that's always just adds that little extra bit to it.
I can't imagine. Well, I want to talk about a few highlights in your book without giving the whole book away. And the reason for that is I want to read the book. We could talk about it, and the people would say, "Okay, I've got everything about it. I've got the cliff notes. I don't need to read it." But I don't want to do that. I want to make people want to read this book. And there's no reason not to. There's plenty of ways to get it. I have read it twice now in 2 weeks and listened to it twice on Audible. It's on Audible. And the way that my job works is I spend a lot of time in a vehicle. And so I'm able to listen to audiobooks a lot. And I love doing that. It takes up time. It keeps me away from the news where I don't have to listen to the news
Mm,
because that is ever so depressing.
yes.
And when I met my wife, she got me to reading books again. And, it got me away from watching funny videos on social media all the time and taking up my time doing things that don't matter. So I've become a reader. And when I received your book a couple weeks ago, it kind of caught me off guard. I'll just tell you that. I have an affinity with hiking books, backpacking books. I watch a lot of YouTube with hiking, packing, and backpacking, just because it shows me the places that I want to go. It helps me make my list.
Mm.
And when I received your book, I thought, okay, this is going to be another backpacking book. Somebody that's been on a trail or something, and it's going to describe the trail. I've listened to probably 20 or 30 Appalachian Trail books, and when I got done, I was like, that's okay. But your book was completely different, not anywhere close to what I was expecting. It's a collection of stories that make me think about my life and my stories and how I can be a better person or improve myself. And so instead of it being a regular, maybe self help book, it is something that appeals to me because it's a topic that I love. And so it completely caught me off guard. And when my wife and I would be sitting on the front porch, I'd be telling her this story. And I just tell her this story about, you're 18-year-old and you're going bikepacking across the country and you run into these people and there's this story about them cooking you breakfast and it totally changed your life and that you tell that story everywhere you go. And she's like, that's cool. And there was one morning I had her bawling. I mean, I just had her just in tears. And now in order to do the podcast and be able to bring the book in here so I could show people that I actually have the book, I had to get it away from her because she's reading it now. She's already halfway done with it. So it was completely different. And so I want to talk about you, your life, your story without giving the book away because I believe that this is a book that people need to read. And because it's totally impact my life. And I believe it would anyone who reads it, and I think they should read it. So
Well,
anyway,
that's my hope that as I worked for probably almost 50 years now, if you count starting with the cross country bicycle trek in 1976, I've worked to reduce my base pack weight, all my gear without food and water, to it's usually under 5 pounds. I've done under 3 pounds, but typically I'm under 5 pounds of
hmm,
gear. And, being an engineer helps in that because I tend to kind of think
right,
that way. Um, but somewhere along the line, I realized that the lessons that I learned through taking less gear into the wilderness, also had applications to life in general. And some of the things I learned on the trail helped me navigate life better when I wasn't on the trail. And
hmm,
so I was, the book is trying to capture those using the trail stories as jumping off points, but then making the application to everyday life.
and you did that in a very very awesome way. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about more about you personally because this part is for me. Okay, everybody who else is listening, this is for me because I want to get to know you a little bit better. You love languages, French, Italian, German, Japanese. When did you discover your love for languages?
Well, I took in high school, I was taking French, which is still the language I know the most of, although by no means fluent. And I was taking Latin, which I really enjoyed. The thing I enjoyed about Latin was reading something that someone wrote thousands of years ago
Thousands
in
of
the
years
language
ago.
they wrote it.
Right.
It was like, you can read the Bible, and it was written thousands of years ago, but
Hmm.
it's been translated. So it's like, I mean, it's great, but it's not the same as I just reading those words that were written, in the
Right.
language. I don't know. I don't know why I got a kick out of that. I took classical Greek briefly, and German briefly. I think I had to drop out of German. There was too much going on, but I don't
Mm.
know. I liked languages. When in high school we did an exchange program, and we went to. I lived at someone's house for a week. A high schooler there, and we're still in touch. Thanks
Mm.
to the internet.
Yeah.
Um, and I love being in another culture and being able to speak to them in their language. I don't know why that's such a kick, but it's just a connection point.
And that does make you connect with people that much on a completely different level. my wife and I have talked about doing um, a hike over in France, and it's a pilgrimage, and France, Spain, and we've talked about learning a little bit more of the Spanish, in order to be able to communicate with them, and I don't have that gift. I've had to take language. I took French in high school. I did okay. I struggled a little bit. I went into ministry actually for a while. I was a college minister. I wanted to be a professor, a Bible professor, like my dad is. I wanted to follow my dad. My dream was to move into his office when he retired, and they wouldn't even have to change the nameplate, and but he has
That's
his
a good plan.
doctorate in biblical languages where he had to master 12. So,
Oh
Greek,
my God.
Hebrew, Aramaic, Coptic, all those. German, he had to have German, um, because of the Martin Luther and different things like that. And so I had to take Koine Greek, 4 semesters Koine Greek. I had to take 2 semesters of Hebrew, and I struggled. I struggled. I do not have that gift, and I wish I did. I guess I need to get on Babbel. Everybody says get on Babbel. You can learn anything on Babbel. I guess
I yeah,
that's
I don't have that gift either. I just like languages.
yeah.
I definitely do not have that gift.
Oh, that's great. I love it. You roast your own coffee in a cast iron skillet. Now, cast iron is one of my loves, and you learn this from Heather Anderson,
Yeah,
Anish.
Anish.
I've
Yeah,
followed her, listened to several of her books. What an amazing woman. Uh,
she's a beast, and
uh,
in a
you know,
good way. Yeah,
In a
just
yeah,
crazy.
and listening to her doing FKTs on the Appalachian Trail and different things, it was every time I listened to one of her books, at the end of a chapter, I was out of breath. I mean, just completely out of breath because I was holding my breath the whole time. She's just amazing. But how did you meet her and that translate into roasting your own coffee?
Well, accidentally starting the gear company kind of put me in the world of through hikers and people doing things like that. Um, and so I knew her. I don't know if she was ever a trail ambassador for us or not. Probably should know that. But
She
I
is
mean, if
now.
you're okay, yeah,
She is now.
if
Yeah.
you're into hiking, yeah, Anish. I mean,
Yeah.
um, just an amazing story of kind of changing the trajectory of her life.
Mm.
And so she was doing her, I think it was the calendar year FKT with her then boyfriend. And they took a 0 day at our house, which I was honored because, they're banging out 40 plus 40, 45
Right.
mile,
Right.
40 to 50-mile days, I think, on the
Yeah.
PCT through Oregon. Um, but they took 24 hours to sleep in our house, do laundry, and then, you know, get back on the trail, which is just, it was an honor. And she had time to, she talked about a previous boyfriend, I think, being taught how to watching some Ethiopians roast
Hmm.
coffee just over a fire. And so I've done it ever since. And boy, if you like coffee, and especially you liking cast irons, like you got
Yeah.
to start roasting your own coffee.
I got a pretty good collection, so I really need to figure this out, because I am a huge coffee man. In fact, I've got my coffee with me right here, because I'm on my fourth cup today. So
Oh,
um,
well,
it's just
you'll laugh. I for our overlanding, well, our boondocking in
hmm
Wally, our Winnebago Revel. Um, I used to just do instant, and it was okay, and it was,
hmm
eh, I've tried a bunch of, every time someone says, "Oh, this one's really good," so now I actually have a mocha pot because I love Italy,
hmm
and then I've got a like hand grinder,
hmm
and then I roast beans on the oven on the stove right before we leave, and then seal them up. So every morning when we're out in the middle of the woods, I take some beans, grind them up, make the coffee in the mocha pot, and it's amazing.
It's about as fresh as you can
Yeah,
get.
yep, yep. So we'll get you roasting coffee.
That is so neat. Anything that you can do from scratch fascinates me, and to be able roast coffee in a cast iron skillet. That just kind of blows my mind a little bit. So I'm
Well,
totally into that.
sounds like I need to send you some sourdough starter too.
Well, and that was the next thing. You love bread. Apparently, you have an affinity for sourdough bread, and I've seen lots of pictures on your Instagram about you just busting out the loaves of bread, and that fascinates me.
You know, bread is kind of like coffee. Once you've had it fresh,
Hmm.
it's like it's really hard to go to the store and buy some. You know, it's just like I don't. People say, "Hey, let's get together for coffee," and it's like, "Oh, okay." You know, I get it, but it's like I'm not going to like their coffee as good as my
Yeah,
coffee.
true. That's
Uh,
true.
and bread, yeah. Once you get used to fresh bread, and you get in a rhythm of, you know, you can make it every 3 or 4 days.
Hmm.
It's just pretty nice.
Yeah, I grew up on homemade cornbread.
Okay.
In the South, we had cornbread and beans probably, I don't know, twice a week. But as far as my family making homemade bread, it just didn't happen. So I've done it once and made homemade biscuits, different things like that. And for somebody who grew up on ham sandwiches and spam sandwiches and spam and macaroni and cheese, for you to say that you've only had one loaf of white bread in your whole life, that's unreal to me. I can't even fathom that.
I grew up on homemade whole wheat bread. My mom made 6 loaves at a time, put them in the
Oh,
freezer. I hated it. I mean, I didn't, you know, I loved the Wonder Bread when I could sneak over to a friend's house and get some of that action. But yeah, that didn't happen very often.
um I love how you've taken your um what do you call the take less do more? Is that do you call that your life's motto? What do you call that?
It's kind of
In
a tagline, I guess, or
Okay.
I don't know. I have a list on my iPhone called tattoos. Now, I don't have any tattoos on my body because it'd be a really expensive divorce. Um, but but there are
Oh
things,
goodness.
you know, it's a short list. Things like if I was going to get a
Right,
tattoo,
right.
this would be kind of in the running, and take less, do more is on that list.
Um,
Uh,
I love how even on, and if you hadn't have pointed it out to me, I would have never noticed. But it doesn't have any capital letters. Just because you say it uses less ink,
yeah,
and
it's about
that's
you're not getting
genius.
any benefit from the capitals. I mean, it
Right.
doesn't. The meaning is unimpaired by lowercase. Um, and so that's kind of, you know, what's the minimum need? What are the important things in life? And at least for the title of the book, capitals was not one of them.
True. Well, I love how you've taken something that originally applied to backpacking and you applied it to your personal life. And you talk about in your book, when you hit the trail, you leave behind the insect like annoyances. And but you also leave behind the things that you enjoy, like the comforts of home. So how do you believe in this take less, do more when you get away from the nuisances, but also the joys of life? How does that help you enrich your life? How does that make your life better?
Well, it gives you in a couple of ways. One, when you're out there, um, not having the emails and all the notifications, and you know, you have no self service and you can't do anything on your to do list anyway. So,
Hmm.
you know, after about 3 days, you stop thinking about it and you just become present, and you've got all day to let your mind wander and think about things that we don't get to think about day to day. You know, we're thinking about like, stuff I got to do, and I got to see so and so. Yeah, I got to get that out, and I got to connect with so and so. And, you know, we're thinking about our to do list even when we're not working on our to do list. And out in the wilderness, like, you're not even thinking about your to do list because you can't do anything on it. So it doesn't matter.
True. So true.
Um,
You just become present.
yeah, you
And
just
that's
become
so hard.
present, and you
So
get,
hard
you know,
today.
that allows that getting your mind into that soft focus allows inspiration to strike. I know John Mackey, when he would go, even when he was CEO of Whole Foods, he would leave on, you know, 6 weeks through hiking, and his executive team was always nervous when he came back because having that much time hiking alone every day, he would get clarity on something. Like
Hmm.
I remember he told me once he came back and he realized like, well, how can we have people working at Whole Foods that like smoke and they're overweight and they don't exercise and they eat crappy food? He's like, that's not right. And so he comes back and I don't know what the corporate initiative was, but they're always a little nervous when he came back. It's like,
Oh, I can
okay,
imagine.
what did he realize on this hike? So that's what allows you. But the being without the conveniences, the potable water and hot water and a soft bed, central heating or air conditioning in your case,
Hmm.
means it gives you a new appreciation for that because our senses are dull to that in everyday life. I mean, we take that for granted
Hmm.
in this country. I mean,
True.
people in plenty of the world, would look at the way we live and go, I mean, we're unbelievably wealthy
Wealthy.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, inconceivably wealthy to most people in the world.
Hmm.
But it's the water we swim in basically on a day-to-day basis. We're upset if we have to wait an extra cycle at the traffic signal or,
Hmm.
not thinking about, wait, I got a car to take me someplace.
Right.
I had a situation recently. I don't know, Francie and I were driving somewhere and I don't remember where we're going, errands or something. And I'm going down a street here and it's like really blocked up, which is rare. And I thought, I don't have time for this. So I made a hard left and then to the parallel street, turned right, and it was closed. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's why
Hmm.
all the blockage was there. And now I'm like, I lost my place in line. Now I'm really
Right.
screwed. And I was really getting upset. And then I thought, wait a minute, just you're in a car, a nice car. You got this beautiful woman by your side,
Hmm.
and you're retired. It's like you're not late for an appointment. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter.
Right.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
It was just like take a breath. But
Yeah.
in day to day life, it's so easy to get caught up in the this is inconvenient and it's annoying, and
Yeah.
so plenty of time sleeping on the dirt and dealing with insects and rain and cold gives you a new appreciation for that stuff.
Totally agree. Totally agree. When you do without, you become appreciative of what you have.
Yeah.
And your your ultralight backpacking philosophy to have perspective on our lives, to see clearly what is truly needed, and to pack light so we are free to do more. Now, in the day that we live in, it's a pretty popular belief that the one with the most toys wins. But you have created on your phone a list where you actually deny yourself things in order to be able to do more. Now, and you've talked about other people who have lists, they call them different things. But denying yourself certain things in order to make you appreciative of what you have is a concept that most people would never understand. And being able to make a list of things, okay, these are the things I want. And you talk in the book about uh, a person that gives themselves two things a year. They deny themselves, and I have that same list. I have Amazon cart that almost has like $1 million worth of stuff on it. And I go back and look, and if I leave it there for a certain amount of time, I go back months later and I like, why did I even put that on there? I didn't need
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That's not. And then I delete it out of my cart and add something else. Because I go through phases. I have to have this. But that's a concept that most people doesn't even compute these days, especially with kids, because the only time that they know is now, and when they want something, they want it now. And if you don't give it to them, well, that's a travesty. And so, denying ourselves things in order to appreciate what we have, that is a concept that is amazing to me, and most people don't get it.
Well,
Most
and
people
it's
don't get it.
yeah. I think part of it is appreciating what you have, but I think some of it is just to kind of push back, I guess, against. I mean, it's so easy for us to instantly have anything we want. We see.
Yeah.
I was just
Buy it now.
I just got something from Garage Grown Gear, and they had
Oh,
some,
they get a lot of my money.
alpha like hoodie or hats, and I go, well, the hat I have now is like 1 ounce. I bet these are like half ounce. It's like,
Hmm.
and then I was like, well, this is stupid. It's like, so it's a way of combating that. It's so easy to get more stuff.
Hmm.
It's a way of just taking a breath, and it's like, hey, my buddy has 2 shopping windows a year, and if he still wants something when the window opens up, well, then he'll buy it. But has found, and I think most people would find, and you and I certainly have found that, if you leave it there for a while, it's like, you know what? I don't really once you wait a while, it's like, I don't really care about that.
Hmm.
And I think part of minimalism to me is not just having less stuff, um, because I always say there wouldn't be, unless you met me on the trail, there wouldn't be really enough evidence to convict me of being a minimalist. Probably. I mean, I live in a big house and it's full of stuff, and part of that is my lovely wife, but she doesn't. I can't blame it all on her. But I think part of it is, one, are you consuming at a reduced level enough that you have money to do other things? We donate a huge percentage of our income,
Hmm.
and it's not like we're denying ourselves, but through consuming less, it frees up income to devote to charitable causes. But the other thing is the things you do own. If you own them or they own you.
Hmm.
We had I had a Subaru that we bought new cars when we moved up to Bend, and New Year's Eve I was rushing back because you got to log on to recreation.gov and get your permits for Buckskin Gulch in April.
Hmm.
So I'm coming back and it's snowy here in Bend, and some gal in her Saab, I don't know what happened, but anyway, she ran into my car, and did, I don't know, $30,000 damage or whatever it was.
Hmm.
Um, and she was, we're friends. We we like saying at parties like, uh, yeah, how did you run into each other? Like, we have our own like private joke. But
That's
she
funny.
was amazed at how unconcerned I was that she just wrecked my new car. It's like it's just a car.
Yeah.
We have a very nice camper van. Winnebago Revel. We bought it almost new, slightly used, and we let friends borrow it. I mean, good friends, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, and people say, well, that's like a, $150,000 rig, and
Yeah.
you're letting some stranger. Well, if they crash it? I mean, that's what you got insurance for. I mean, that's what they got body shops for. It's like, it's
Yeah.
just stuff. When you have something like a disabled child, or when you've been through some stuff, or people there's plenty of things that money can't fix.
Mm.
Someone
True.
that just got a terminal diagnosis or something. You realize that the rest of it is really just stuff. I mean, it doesn't much matter.
Yeah. You're very open and honest and uh, vulnerable in your book about how some stories. I love how you talk about your relationship with your wife. In June, you celebrated 42 years. You talk about how you met, how you dated. I love the story about how she wouldn't let you scoot the seat back, and you're a tall guy. Yeah, and the story about her praying to meet a guy and then amending her prayer to get a tall guy. That's genius. That's gold. That's gold. But I love how you talk about, she's not really a sleep in a tent on the ground type of girl, but y'all got the van as a little bit of a compromise, so she could have her all the comforts of home, and you could get outdoors. Wally is what you named your van,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I love the compromise there. How you grow and strengthen your relationship through compromise. Do you feel like um, that is something that y'all have done throughout the 42 years to make it work? Uh, Marriage advice is what I'm looking for here. The give and the take. Now, my wife and I, we do everything together. Everybody told her you'll never find somebody that likes the outdoors as much as you do. Well, she found me, and they're
Wow.
like, "Oh, you found gold." And so, we've backpacked together multiple trips, and we do everything together, hike together, travel together. We did 6,000 miles in the Northeast,
Wow.
and living out of our car, and it was amazing. We had the best time. But I love how you see this relationship with your wife is one of the most important things in your life. And you show her how much you love her by doing little things, the cards, and leaving cards for a thing. And this is where I got my wife to bawl. And she was just in tears, because this is not, in her world, that's not normal. It's not a normal thing for a man to go out of their way. Now, I'm not talking about myself because I do things for my wife, but in the normal world, that's not normal for a man to go out of his way and do little things like that, like what you do for your wife. And I love how you did that. So, through your experiences, what would you say to the man who is putting in way too many hours at work and maybe not spending that time, maybe missing out on some time with his kids or his wife? What would you say to that man as a result of your experiences that you've been through?
Well, and let's be honest, I was that man. I mean,
I was that man too, and
I
that's why I need to hear this.
yeah, I was, working 60, 70 hours a week for my engineering job, another 30 hours a week doing the gear business. Um, I used to read books to the boys. We'd lie down in our bed and I'd start reading a book. And then pretty soon, like my brain had shut out. So I'd start talking about fire hydrants and graders and stuff like that, which was not what the book was about.
Mm,
And I'd hear Brian say, "Mommy, Dad's doing it again." And she'd come pick him up, put him to bed. So, yeah, I was that guy.
yeah,
And, it's only the grace of God that my sons don't seem to be the worst for wear. I mean, they turned out fine. In some ways, I think it may have inoculated them from repeating my mistake because they
mm,
got to experience that.
yeah,
Um, so they definitely want to live along the way. They don't want to put it all off till later.
yeah.
Um, so that's a good thing. I am actually. Uh, Before we got on, I realized I am late because today's the 27th, and I miscalculated because we were out boondocking a day longer than I thought. I thought we were going to be home yesterday, the 26th, because the 26th of every month we
That's
celebrate
your
our
anniversary.
anniversary. Right,
Yeah,
because it's like once a year is not enough to celebrate a guy like me ending up with a gal like her for sure.
right, right.
So yeah, I'm behind. I'm gonna have to write one when we're done here and slip it under the pillow tonight. And it's close enough. Uh, yeah, I would say it doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah.
Um, there was like I wrote a post-it one morning and put it on the inside of the cabinet so that this was in our old house, one of the old school cabinets, you open up the medicine cabinet to get your toothbrush or whatever.
Mm,
When she opened it, there was a post-it that said, every time I think of you, I don't know, my heart goes flip-flop or whatever I wrote. I just
yeah.
scribbled it on a post-it, but that post-it was there for years. Um, so it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be consistent and has to be intentional. I give the hack in the book about going to a store and loading up on a bunch of cards.
Mm,
Um, cards that she would enjoy, that are share some bond that you have in common, and then just put them in your office. And then when you think of it, you can do it.
hmm.
It's not like, yeah, I'm feeling really loving, or I want to do something, but I don't have a card, and I'm not going to drive down to the. So, then set it up for yourself so that you have the tools to do it.
Yeah. It's, the to a female, the little things do matter the most. Big things come not very often, but if you do small things pretty often, it means the world to them. And so that totally gave me ideas. I mean, I don't have to set a alarm on my phone every 2 days to, write a note or anything like that. Although we could, with our phones, they're smarter than we are, and so that would be that would be pretty handy. And I might do that. But yeah,
And surprise is nice too sometimes.
yeah,
Like sometimes it just adds a little extra to whatever the gesture is. Like the dishwasher. Francie comes down in the morning and thinking the dishwasher is full, and the first thing she's going to do is unload it. And we both do it, and uh, it's not a big deal to her. But if I've already done it, she opens it and then closed it so it looks like it was full. When she opens it expecting to unload, it's like, oh, I got an extra 5 minutes this morning because
yeah,
someone was thoughtful and already did
right.
it. Or surprise, like at work. When she was working, I'd send stuff to work because then you get witnesses, and that adds to the excitement and pleasure. So
And you have really went out of your way several times. The story of the bra, that was really neat. The
that was an
rhinestone
extra
bra. You
effort.
gave her $1 million bra without having
Yes.
to do that. And the Homeland Security, that was pretty neat story. About you have to beware of a hopeless romantic that may attack you or something
Yeah.
like that. That was so cool. I actually listened to that part today again on the way home to let my pup out during
Yeah, it's
lunch. And
fun to kidnap her sometimes. She doesn't know
yeah,
where she's going. And Francie doesn't, she's not a big surprise person. Um, but still it's a little fun. She didn't know, told her pack, and we get on the freeway. She doesn't know if we're going for a car trip,
yeah,
and then we go to the airport. She doesn't know where we're going, until we get to, once we get on the
wow,
plane, then she goes,
nice.
oh, so
Yeah,
yeah, it's fun. It's fun
they
to
kind of
see.
give it away at the airport, don't they?
They do. They do. Yeah. Yeah.
You describe yourself as an introvert, but your comfort zone to love on people. Now, I would probably greatly identify with your Aunt Neva. Get in, get out type of thing. With my line of work, a lot of times I really have to work at loving people. And so, the reason that I got into the overlanding part is to get away from people. And so this is the part that really hit me right here. So I love how you describe the people you find attractive, people who have something to say and nothing to prove. Now, what do you mean by this, and why is that an important character trait for
Well, I enjoy yeah, I'm happy with my own company.
you? Yeah.
Um, I can we'll be driving in Wally and Francie will tell her friends like one time I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to say anything and I'm just going to see how long it is before Glenn says something. It's like you'll lose that bet, honey, because
Yeah,
I
don't
can
don't tempt me.
I can go happily for 12 hours just thinking about whatever and not
Yeah,
saying a thing.
embrace the silence.
Embrace the silence. Not a problem. No. Um, but uh, I realized one first in my career engineering, um, I realized that if you can figure out well first everything you want to get done, no matter how smart you are and how hard you work, how many hours you work, is going to get done through other people at some
Mm,
level. And so you need to figure out how to relate to other people. And I figured, if you can, sure, if you got some engineering skills, that's great. If you can learn how to write stuff that people actually want to read and learn to do public speaking, well, then you'll always have a job, is what I
mhm,
figured. And
mhm.
so far worked. I always had a job,
Yeah,
until I didn't need one anymore.
yeah.
Um, but for, it's like I'm happy by myself, taking a trip by myself, but people bring richness to life. And
Mm,
I know that because it's happened. And so I force myself to create situations where I'm with other people. Um, and one of those is actually I got the idea from John Mackey is what I call the list. And
mhm,
I'll get usually a couple times a year, I'll get a some permits for a backpacking trip, and then I'll send it out to a list of people that's currently probably about 70 people to see if anyone can join. And these are people who my shorthand for them is people with something to say but nothing to prove. And that is people that, they have interesting lives, which if you take time to talk to them, is pretty much everyone I've come to find. It doesn't seem interesting to them necessarily, but that's because it's their life.
Right.
It's different from our lives, and so it's fascinating to us. And but they don't have to be the center of attention. So they're not like me. I mean, introverts are okay, because that's the good thing about backpacking. You're walking all day. It's like, you got nothing else to do. You might as well talk.
Right.
You don't have to talk, but you certainly have the opportunity to talk. So people that are willing to share, but they don't have to be the one, always one-upping. This is what I'm doing. This is what I've done. Those people don't get on the list.
Yeah. Well, you have met some very interesting people, I imagine, through the years doing this trip. You talk about the 6 degrees of separation, where the small world. And I love your sentence where you say we're often only an introduction or two away from knowing some of the world's most amazing, interesting people. And I can think about in my life, and the travels that I've done and see how true that is. How you meet a friend of a friend, and that person, you just can't get enough of them. That you can't listen to their stories enough. And so, it makes me wonder, okay, so I can think about the stories that I have and the people that I've met and this list trip that you've taken. How has having this trip, meeting these people impacted your life? How has it changed your life? Because I know you've met lifelong friends through this trip that were just maybe acquaintances or somebody that you knew. So how has doing this trip impacted your life as a whole?
Well, I've gained new friends. I mean, I've been able to sometimes help them with something, or they've been able to help me with something. When I set out to write this book, I thought, it's gonna be a lot of work. I've never written a book before, and even though I'm donating all the proceeds, I want to do it right and make it successful to the extent that I can. And then suddenly I realized that I know lots of people that are authors. Some of them like best-selling authors, and they're all very. I mean, we didn't talk about it when we were hiking, but when I sat down and realized it, and they were happy to spend time with me to, read the rough draft and give suggestions and work on the title and make introductions to publishers and things like that. So, I'm at the point in life where when I meet someone new, I'm always curious, like, are they, why am I meeting this person? Why is God putting them in my path? Do I have something? Am I going to be able to help them with something? Maybe they were just wondering, gosh, I wish I could backpack with less weight. I'm your guy.
Yeah, I'm your guy.
Or, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
learn to wash dishes or whatever, some skill that I can help with. Or, maybe they have something that I need. I've been thinking about, gosh, I need to meet someone who knows how to do ABC. And what do you know? Here's this person that knows how to do that. Or they know somebody who knows somebody who knows how to do it.
Right.
And so sometimes I'll meet someone and I think it's going to be one thing, but it turns out being another. I had a guy early on in this journey when I was had to put together a website. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to need some good photography. I've achieved the pinnacle of success in life because my photographs look better than I do now. Which to me is like, like someone's made it when their photograph looks really good, not so much them, So I'm there now. I'm proud.
That's awesome. When somebody meets you in person, they think, that's not what I thought you'd look like.
Exactly.
I kind of had the same thing listening to your Audible book, because that's not you on the Audible book. I was like, okay, this voice is different. Okay.
Yeah. No, I know someone that had talked to me beforehand, got the book and hadn't realized that. They go, wait a minute, this isn't Glenn, or he sounds different somehow. But so
Yeah.
I, doing the website, I talked to a guy locally here who seems to know everybody, and he introduced me to one guy. I had coffee with him. He does amazing photography. He says, well, I don't do portrait stuff. He says, talk to this other guy. Um, and then he, shared that this guy had just gotten a terminal diagnosis, and, so don't wait too long before contacting him, basically. Um, and so in the meantime, before I got in touch with the second photographer, I realized that I knew a thru hiker who took amazing photographs, and, I could just hire her. She'd come down from Washington and take a couple photos and be done. But I thought, well, I already said I'd meet this guy for coffee. So I have coffee with the second photographer. Well, and it turns out, we get to talking about his diagnosis, and he's got a list, things he's like to do while he's on Earth. And to have the maximum time on Earth, make the most use of it, he quit his job. So obviously finances are tight. Well,
Right.
Because we've been intentional about setting funds aside into a different account, we can write a check and help him get to Patagonia to get something off his bucket list. So, that was a case of, well, I meet this guy thinking he's going to do something for me, but as it turns out, nope, I can do something for him. So you just never know.
Oh, that's an incredible story. And that's not even in your book.
That's not in the book. No, for privacy reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, that's free. Um, well, I want to get into talk a little bit about backpacking a little bit. We haven't hit on that yet, and time is flying. So, you state that your love for outdoors was cultivated in Boy Scouts when you were young. What was the draw to the outdoors for you as a child?
I don't remember. I just, even before Boy Scouts when we were young, I think I've got a picture in the book of me as a like baby toddler, out
Hmm.
at some state campground with my dad's International Harvester.
Yeah,
I just
back
like
before overlanding was a thing, you were overlanding with your
yeah,
dad.
yeah, just I don't know, just this, the smell of sun on the pine needles and the trees and the birds and squirrels and campfires and,
Hmm.
um, the Coleman lanterns, the old Coleman stoves.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. I just thought that was nice being outside. And I was
So
lucky enough to grow up in a time, before the internet was invented to, we lived outside. It was
yeah.
like, we knew there was a neighbor that rang the bell like at 5 o'clock, and it was like, okay, you could hear it from the whole neighborhood, time to get home for dinner.
Hmm.
But yeah, we were just outside having fun.
Constantly outside. That reminds me of when I was a kid as well. In your book, you mentioned several places that you have been or like to go. You mentioned the Buckskin Gulch several times, the PCT, the Continental Divide bike trail that you did. I don't even know how to pronounce Alpa Adria. Is that how you pronounce it?
Alpe Adria, huh?
Uh, what makes a place special and attractive to you that make you want to go?
Well, I mean, what really makes my heart sing is kind of mountains above tree line.
Hmm.
Um, so that's always special to me. But really anything, um, like another cultures are interesting. Like the Alpadria went through Austria, Slovenia, and Italy.
Hmm.
So, different languages, different
Hmm.
cultures. Just like wait, waiting for a taxi driver at one location to take us somewhere, and I hear a bunch of music, and it's a Sunday. It's kind of like across the lake, and I go, "What's that?" And she's enthusiastic speaker of English, but she's like checking on her phone. She's, it doesn't really translate. It's Beer Sunday. It's like, what's that? She's, well, they go to church and then afterwards everybody has beer and brats and dance and stuff. It's like, well, that sounds great.
That sounds horrible.
That's one way to get people to church,
No
beer
kidding.
afterwards. I don't know, but it's just these things you find different cultures,
Yeah.
and then part of it's the people. If you're with people who have something to say but nothing to prove, then it
Mm,
doesn't really matter what you're doing. It's
true.
always a good time.
True. Well, the people can make it better or they can make it a lot worse.
Oh yeah.
Everyone who hikes knows about trail names. We know that they're earned, not self-given, and you have had several um, that have been given to you. Homemade was one of the first ones. They called you the legend, which he said in the book that you don't like that one very much.
No,
And then one that only, I think you said now only four people in the world know the meaning of, the G squared.
correct.
Which one do you most identify with? Most
I
people know you by
I usually use G squared.
G squared,
Yeah.
but it's a top secret thing that nobody can know what the meaning of.
People assume they know because obviously, the common thing is, oh, it stands for Gossamer Gear, which it
Right,
doesn't.
right.
Um, Recently had a guy super smart, like we're talking Elon Musk smart, a new friend of John's and been on a couple hikes with him. He thought about it and guessed it, boom, just like that. I was like, wow,
Wow.
that was scary. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But the
That's
guy who
awesome.
actually gave it to me forgot
He
what
forgot
it's,
why he
he
gave it
forgot
to
what
you.
it stands for. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, we have to talk about gear. In your videos, you talk about gear, and gear lists are one of your favorite things in the world, you said, and it's mine too. And so we cannot not talk about gear. So I've watched several of your videos. I love watching your videos because you go through every single thing, and I would encourage everybody to go on. They're on Gossamer Gear's YouTube site, and they're also on Gossamer Gear's website in the different backpacks. You state that most of the items you take with you are for the trail, much less for camp, because you want to be walking. Uh, uh, you talk about if you stop, you constantly lose ground. So what is some of your favorite gear that you have? I know you've got to have favorite gear in all the things that you take. What's some of your favorite stuff?
Yeah, I just actually Gossamer Gear is doing a some kind of blog series on Gearless, so I just actually just wrote some stuff on that. And I don't know about favorite. I mean, my oldest piece of gear is a pair of purple fleece socks. Um,
Hmm.
I got those at REI when I loaded up with, a huge internal frame pack and everything for Brian's first Sierra Trek.
Hmm.
And those are still in my pack virtually every trip. They're
Hmm.
they keep my feet warm at night. When I put hospital booties over them, they're my camp shoes. And then I cut slits in them, so if it's really super cold, I can use them as mittens also. So, and
Well,
they
for
only
you
weigh
not to be able to wear out a pair of socks, I'm amazed. Uh,
well, they're just sleep socks,
okay,
So
okay.
yeah,
So you're not hiking in them; you're just sleeping
I'm
in them.
not hiking in them.
Where did the
I
hospital
have
booties
ones.
come from? That blew me away when I first saw that. Where did the idea for hospital booties come from?
I don't know. You just need something to keep the dirt out of your feet when you're in camp, and most sandals and stuff are pretty
Heavy, very
heavy.
heavy. And they
Yeah,
trick you. They trick you because when you look at the weight on their website, it's only for one. It's not for the pair. And so they trick you. Oh, these only weigh 5 ounces. No, they weigh 5 ounces a piece. And so, it's a trickery. And
yeah,
they've caught me. They've caught me a few times.
yeah.
Well, when my wife and I got together, I told her there's several things that I can compromise on. I want to love you. I want to be the man that you want me to be. I want to be all that you've ever dreamed of. But there's one thing that you're just gonna have to get used to. I love gear. I love gear. I'm a gearhead. I love gear, and we live in a great day for gear. You mentioned that when you started to lighten your load, your in first internal backpack, given 5 stars by the experts, was 7.5 pounds, and that's just the pack. And you talk about when you did your first trip with your son, your pack was 71.5 pounds. 13-year-old son's was 40 pounds. And so we live in a day now that was many, 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 many years ago. And we live in a day now where you can get things that are not even remotely close to that. So much better, and because of you, we've done that. But did you then talk about how tired and sore everything was at the end of that, taking away so much enjoyment out of time. And that made you think maybe there is a better, more efficient way of doing things. And is that when the engineering wheels start rolling in your mind about if there's not anything out there? And I love how you talk about when you sent your pattern to the people to sew the stuff together, they were like, "This is not like what we've already done," and you're like, "Right, that's exactly why we want to do it." I love that, and I get tickled. I've listened to that twice and read it twice, and I've got tickled every time. I chuckled both times. Yeah, that's the reason we're doing this, is to do something different. Is that when everything? Is that when the wheels started going? Was when everything was so heavy, and your friend was like, "I want to do part of the PCT, but I can't do it with a 70-pound pack." Oh,
Well,
and
the other thing that kicked it off was my buddy Reed Miller read Ray Jardine's Pacific Crest Trail Hiker's Handbook, his
right.
first book.
Right.
And, he's got gear lists in the back, like his and Jenny's gear lists that were like 8 pounds and change.
Mm.
And I remember sitting there with Reed, just looking at those like under 8 pounds or, 8 pound, 8.5 pounds base pack weight. That's insane.
Yeah. It doesn't even compute, really.
Yeah, no, it's like it's just crazy. And now, like I can't remember the last time my best pack weight was that heavy. Part of it is materials, but yeah, now we live in such an amazing. You don't have to know how to sew. I mean, because there are now hundreds of guys like me, cottage guys, making probably whatever you think is a good idea. There's somebody else that's making it.
Hmm.
There wasn't, 25, 30 years ago.
Right.
So I had to make my own. But now you don't even have to sew. I mean, it's a
If you look hard enough, it's
dangerous
out there.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that they say there's nothing new under the sun, and if you can't find it where you are, the internet will show you that there's something out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your current pack that you carry is the Gossamer Gear Murmur 36 Hyperlight.
Yep.
Saw this in your video. Watched the video, which with the sit pad, it and the belt comes in just over 12 ounces. So it's not even a pound. It's and that's according to the website. That's according to the website.
Sounds right.
You state in your video, and I encourage everybody to watch this video because you actually take this pack with your stuff in it and unpack it and show everybody what it is that you designed. What is it that you like about this pack compared to the others? What's different about it?
So the pack itself without a waist belt, and usually I don't need it because I'm kind of under 12, 13 pounds fully loaded,
Hmm.
is it weighs less than 8 ounces. So it's everything I need. It's got all the conveniences. It's got a sternum strap. It's got adjustable shoulder straps that are breathable. Um, it's got a huge back pocket that you can stuff full of stuff, rain jackets or your snacks or lunch. It's got a side pocket that you can put a water bottle in. It's got another side pocket that you can, put your tent or your bag of, first aid and emergency stuff. So it's got everything I think at least you need, but weighs less than half a pound.
It is, and you designed this pike, right? This
Uh-huh.
was one of the ones you designed. Well, you have uh, after watching your videos and several other people's videos, you've inspired me. You've inspired me. I've backpacked I've backpacked for years, and it was several years ago. And this is my confession here. Several years ago, uh, I was overweight. My blood pressure was extremely high,
Oh,
and I went to the nurse, and she said, "Your BP is so high, you need to go to the doctor now." I went to the doctor now, and he right then, and he told me, he said, "You got two choices: life change or stroke." And so I decided life change would be better than a stroke. At that
well,
point, obviously. And so I chose different. Started going to the gym, working out, and then realized, I mean, just like a light bulb went off. Backpacking is so much more fun than the treadmill. It's so much more fun than treadmill. Hiking is so much more fun to the treadmill because you're in, one's you're inside, the other you're outside. You're getting to see everything. There's trails everywhere. There's apps now where you can find a trail that you don't even know exists that could be a mile down the road. And so I got into backpacking full force, hiking full force. I mean, I was doing it every day. I was putting a backpack on myself every day, going out. Life changed, lost a ton of weight. But my first trip with my buddies, and this is since college, and since I was young. Now I'm in my mid 50s now, so it's been a while since I took some time off. I didn't backpack for a while, but when my buddies were like, "Hey, come go with us," I'd lost all my weight. I'm ready to go. I said, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." My pack was 36 pounds, and this was me losing. I lost, and here's another confession. I lost 52 pounds in 2 months. I
Oh my
mean, I took
gosh,
it seriously. I did not want to die. I'm the
that's
only man in my
crazy.
family that has not had a heart attack before the age of 52. And I didn't want to be next. And so I was like,
Wow.
okay, I'm doing this. But when I did that, I lost a ton of muscle, a ton of muscle. And so I put this 36-pound pack on, and we take off going on the Ozark Highlands Trail through the Ozarks. And we get about 2 miles in, and I'm like, this was not a good idea. This was not a good idea. I felt like my feet were cement blocks. It was so heavy. I bought this Mystery Ranch pack. They make them for the military. They're good enough for me. And yeah, it's 6 pounds and it'll last 15 lifetimes. But goodness gracious, it's very heavy. And everything that I put in there was very heavy. And so you have inspired me. And I have right here, I have the G4. And the reason I have the G4 is because after reading your book, that is the one that you ended up with, that you went from the G1, the G2, the G3. And I love how you say, yeah, I was very creative in my titles. You know, you ended up with the G4, and that seemed to be the one that kicked off, that started everything for you, Gossamer Gear. And I said, I want to own this pack. I want this pack to be mine. I want a G4. And so I get on Gossamer Gear's website, and guess what? They've got a sale, and they're getting rid of last year's models to go this year's models, and they're like half price. And I'm like, sold. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to get this in. I've got to get this in. And I watched your videos on how to pack and what to pack, and now I've got my base weight down. I weighed it the other day. I packed it. I've got scales for everything. And then I've got this app called Packlight. It's amazing. So this app called Packlight, you can weigh your stuff, and it builds a list of everything that you own, all your gear and the weight. And then you could put together a pack, and it'll tell you how much your pack's going to weigh with your stuff. So if you've got more than one sleeping bag, more than one, cook stove or whatever, and it's so fun for me to sit there and just at my pack, and this is how much my pack going to weigh. But I got it to 12 pounds. I got my base weight to 12 pounds. And I was like, yes, I've done it. I've done it. I can do this. How far and how much more enjoyable can I be with 12 pounds instead of 36? I was so excited. I did
Yeah,
high kicks and
you can
almost
do.
hurt myself.
You can. Yeah, I mean, you can do more miles. You can do, whatever you want. For some people, it means they have more weight. They have more capacity, I guess, to take a big camera if that's what's important to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do
Oh.
more miles or just, one thing that always stuck with me is an interview, or maybe it was just a talk with Coop Coupinas of GoLight back in
Mm,
the day, and he was talking about their progression, and he and his wife Kim were doing backpacking, and everything hurt. Their waist hurt and
mm,
shoulders hurt, and finally they got like a Dana Designs pack or something, big terraplane or whatever it
mm-hmm,
was back in the day. Put all their stuff in, and they went on a pack, and they thought it was great. It fit us so well. It's like the shoulders were okay, our hips didn't hurt. But he said, but our legs still hurt, our feet still hurt, and
mm,
that's when he realized, like, okay, it's just not about the fit. It's all that weight is you
Yeah.
still got to carry all that weight, even if the pack fits well. So yeah, if you reduce the weight, that helps everything.
Well, and the guys even told me, "Oh, you think you're hurting today? Wait till tomorrow." And I thought, well, that doesn't sound fun. I mean, how many ibuprofen do I have to take to feel good tomorrow? And so, it's a whole new way of thinking. But you really hit me hard when you talk about people backpack or they pack their fears. And that is so me. That's so me. I mean, you spoke to me personally. It's like reading a verse in the Bible and you're like, okay, God, you wrote this for me. Or when you're sitting there listening to the preacher and I'm like, is there anybody else in the room? Am I the only one that's getting this? Because you wrote the sermon for me. But okay, so this summer, my wife and I were doing a part of the North Country Trail. We were in Upper Michigan, and this was one of the first times that we actually had to take a shuttle. So we parked on one end. It was 46 miles. We take the shuttle, and I thought, okay, we got to make sure we don't forget anything because once that shuttle picks us up, that's it. That's
That's it.
it. And so I was like, we're going to get there early. We're going to get to the parking lot early. We're going to go through everything. We're going to make sure we've got everything. And I go to fill up our water at the visitor center there at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. I go over to fill up our water and make sure we got everything. And the bus pulls up. He's an hour early. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we can actually get a head start. So I run back to the car. I run over there. Are you here to pick us up? Are you Mr. Slayton? Yes, I am. Oh, we're ready. We're ready. And so we throw our packs in there, we go, and we're so excited. We get there, we take our picture by the sign. We get about 100 yards down the trail, and my wife says, babe, where are our trekking poles? Where's our trekking poles? And I'm thought, you have got to be kidding. We have to have trekking poles for our tent. Our tent is a trekking pole tent. We cannot use our tent without trekking poles. And I just had this moment of this is my worst fear because I pack for my fears. I pack because I don't want to leave anything at home. And the only thing I forgot was the two things that were not in my pack. That's the only thing I forgot. And so, fortunately, we were in a city and I walked. Actually, I waved at a lady. I was walking to we called a store and they had four trekking poles, two sets of trekking poles. And so I was walking about 2 miles. I told my wife, I said, stay with the stuff. I'm just going to take off walking. Whenever I get back, I get back. And so as soon as I left the parking lot, this lady was coming out of the hospital. And I said, hey, ma'am, how are you? And she waved at me. And I said, is there any way you can give me a ride? And she said, sure, get in. And I'm like, I didn't even tell you where I was going. And so Trail Angel, big time. She's like, what's going on? I told her. She said, well, I'll tell you what. I'll take you. I'll drop you off. I'll go get some gas and I'll pick you up and I'll bring you back. And when I showed back up to my wife in like 20 minutes, she's like, what in the world? And we just both laugh about that. But
That's awesome.
you hit me so hard about packing for my fears because I'm always looking at the weather. What if I need this? What if I need an umbrella? What if I need another hoodie? What if my feet get wet? I mean, just constantly, will I get cold? And so it's something that you have to constantly think about and get over and figure out a way to work through some things because you've totally inspired me to totally rethink when I like to plan ahead. So 3 or 4 days when we're out and I've got everything spread out all over the floor of the house, this is what I'm going to take. I need to go through there and uh, figure out what I can live without in order to get my pack weight down instead of trying to figure out what I can add to be comfortable. It's a whole new way of thinking. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
some of
so
it might
fun.
be as simple as stuff that was in your pack that you didn't use the whole time. It's like, well, I was worried about this, but I didn't actually use that.
Hmm.
And there's some exceptions, like okay, first aid. It's like, well, you hope you don't have to use it, but you probably still want to take it.
Right.
But a lot of people take just in case stuff, and after 3 or 4 trips, realize, well, I've been hauling that around for 4 trips
Hmm.
now and never actually used that. So
Yeah.
I think you need to come out here, get you an ocean roll, and then you and you need to experience like a 6 pound base pack weight and just see how that works out.
I can't imagine, but I would do that in a heartbeat. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I
We
leave
do
leaving
have
the
in
trail
common.
leaving the trailhead with 12 pounds on your back and that's all your food and water, it's a whole different experience.
I can't imagine because I carry more than that in my pack every day. Um, you know, and I train. I'm getting over a foot injury. I had a motorcycle accident 4 weeks ago today,
Mm.
and I still can't walk very well. I don't limp anymore, but at my age, at our age, it takes a long time to heal. So I got to be
Yeah.
very careful.
Yeah.
And so I can't hike right now. I can't get out and walk very well. So, but I can ride a bicycle all day. So my wife and I've been taking bike rides um, in order to get our exercise in. And I've been training because we want to do this backpacking trip. And so I've got a trailer that I pull my dog in. So I'm pulling an extra 30 pounds. So I told her, I said, when I'm not pulling this trailer, this bicycle is going to feel like so light because I'll be used to pulling the dog around. And so I try to, train a little bit heavier so that way everything feels a little bit lighter. But when you get that base weight down to even less than what you carry every day to work, I can't imagine. And that being everything you need to live for a certain amount of time. It just totally blows my mind.
Yeah, and that's
Blows my
why
mind.
I don't really train. I mean, one, my pack is always packed. I don't put the sleeping bag in it because I don't want that to be compressed.
Right.
I don't put my down jacket in, but everything else is basically ready to go for a 3-day trip.
So
So
and
you
that
you
was
could call me and say, "Hey, Glenn,
are you ready?
are you ready for a 3-day trip?" I was like, "Yeah, I just need to pick which sleeping bag, which shelter, um, bug spray or not, head net or not, a couple of minor
Mm,
things. Throw in, I got plenty of food lying around. Throw in
yeah.
1.2 pounds times 2.5 days, and I'm out the door."
And that I thought about that today, asking you how you store your stuff, but you keep it in your pack, everything but the the puffy stuff that needs to expand, so you don't
Right.
compress it.
And so I usually keep my wedge shelter, my 2.7 ounce tarp shelter in there because that's my go-to. But if there's going to be bugs or the weather's going to be particularly nasty, then I'll pull that out, put in the Whisper, 10 ounces to get a full tent.
Yeah.
Um, but
It
pretty
is.
much everything else. And when I get back from a trip, I like anything I've used out of the first aid kit. I
Hmm.
take any of the the wipes, the spray for um, the antiseptic spray for cleaning your hands.
Hmm.
I replenish all that, so it's always ready to go. So I don't need to think about like, oh, did I,
Hmm.
put new batteries in or whatever the case may be.
Fuel tablets for your stove.
Yeah,
You all have to
oh,
pray. So we actually
that's
have the
always in
same
there.
stove. This is my absolute favorite stove. And I saw on your video you have this. Oh, it's Trail Designs
Yeah,
Caldera.
so I'm
Okay.
going to save you a little weight. You know that big heavy plastic thing?
Uh huh.
You can ditch that. So what you do now, you don't want to dent the stove or the beer can because then it'll break. Because I've done that.
Yeah.
So what you do is, and I'm going to save the weight of your sleeping bag stuff sack. Also, throw out your sleeping bag stuff sack. Put your sleeping bag in the bottom of the pack, and then kind of make a dent in the top of it, and nestle that can right in there. And then I
Okay.
usually put my shelter or something on the top to kind of bridge it,
Uh
but
huh.
that distributes the force, and you don't need that big heavy plastic case to protect it.
Huh.
So we probably just saved you an ounce and a half right there,
Interesting.
maybe two.
Well, whatever we have to do. Whatever we have to do. Now, why did you go to a tarp? Is it
Lighter.
just for weight, or is it are you very comfortable sleeping in a tarp
I actually
instead of a tent?
prefer the tarp just being more connected with the outside,
Right.
unless there's bugs outside. Obviously,
Yeah.
then I don't want to
Yeah.
be connected to
Arkansas.
the bugs.
Whew,
Yeah, well,
man.
then I'd be taking the Whisper, because it's
And I
not going to
just
bug me.
discovered the Whisper. Oh my goodness. So I'm playing on Gossamer Gear's website because when I have spare time at work and I'm at a laptop, that's what I do. And um, did you design the Whisper? Is this one of your things?
Yeah, I designed that because I was doing 1,000 miles on the Great Divide, a bike packing
For the
trip
bike packing, right?
for the bike packing, and I knew there were going to be bugs, and so I thought about maybe just a head net, earplugs, and some Tylenol PM, but I thought, nah, night after night, that's not going to hack it. So I wanted a tent. Um, so I designed the Whisper. I've got when you come for that ocean roll, I can show you like the 12 versions in Tyvek that I did before I finally got it dialed in.
And there's only a certain amount of these that are going to be made. It's what the website says. It's like a limited edition
We did. That's
type
always the
thing.
problem when I design something. I bring it to the product design team, and the first question is, okay, are there 5 other guys besides Glenn who think this is a good idea? And a lot of times the answer is probably not. And this one was, well, maybe we'll make 100 and see how they do.
Yeah,
But they sold out, and we just ordered another 100, so they should
good.
be. They're on the way.
It is. It's not anything like I've ever seen, and there's not anything out there like it that I've ever seen because you either in everything that I've seen, you either get a tent or a tarp, and even if you get on the big like Hyperlight or anything like that, you get a tarp and you can add insides to it, but you don't have anything quite like this. This is one of a kind. Have you seen anything else that is anywhere close to it? Because it's pretty much like a tarp that has the edges of it, they go down to the ground, is or the or is the bug stuff. It doesn't have a floor. You can add a floor, but in your video, you just show you putting like a DCF floor down, putting rocks down around it to hold it down. Um,
Yeah,
is there anything else?
I just use the polycryo ground
Yeah,
sheets that we because they're the lightest, and that way if they wear out, if you
let's get another one.
if you make a full tent and you put a nice DCF floor in, well, that's gonna. In fact, I just got a tent with a floor back from some thru hikers I lent it to that has a hole in it now.
Mm,
So if you got a $500 tent and you put a hole in the floor, that's suboptimal. So you
mm,
either have to make the floor a bunch much heavier so it's more durable, or just make it removable. So
right.
that's the route I went.
Mm,
And the other thing I did that you don't see a lot is I put a pole at the end to keep it off your feet.
mm-hmm.
Tried to do with one pole and just really couldn't get the configuration I wanted. So you take your second trekking pole or segmented poles if you're on a bicycle,
Mm-hmm.
um, and put that at the toe, and it gives you. It's quite roomy for 10 ounces.
It looked like it, and all the I like reading reviews, and so I read the reviews that are on there, and everybody talks about how. And one guy said, if you travel with a dog, this is the best shelter that you could possibly have because it doesn't have the floor, and you don't have to worry about the dog getting in there and messing it up because they can just crawl on the side. It was a very good review. I enjoyed
It'd be
that.
tight with a dog, I would think, unless it was a small dog. I don't know.
But 9.8 ounces. 9.8 ounces is
Yeah,
this
I don't take
shelter.
the stuff sag, obviously, so
Right. Um,
that would
incredible.
kick it up to 10, I think.
Love it. Food is one of the heaviest things that we carry. What, if anything, do you do to save weight on your food? Now, you said a minute ago that you package food according to weight per day, because you know how much food you consume per day. So, is there anything that you do with? Do you repackage food, or is there certain foods that you take that they don't weigh very much? How do you do your food? That interests me.
So, I've got an article on this. I think there's a segment in the book in lesson 7, and also I've got an article on my website. Um, and I should mention all the what's in my pack videos are also on my website under
Yes.
videos, glenvanpeski.com. Um, so food, I mean, I like hot food. I mean, that's a luxury item. But my cooking kit only weighs like 3.5 ounces. So that's, to me, it's worth it to have a hot meal.
Hmm.
But I like to snack all through the day. So I generally don't take anything that weighs less than 100 calories an ounce, or that has less than 100 calories an ounce.
Hmm.
So not a lot of fluffy, I don't know, popcorn or stuff like that. Um, although that's pretty light, so that might even make the cut. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I just, again, I'm geared for motion, so typically I'm not heating water in the morning.
Hmm.
I'm only boiling water at night for dinner. So water or breakfast will be like a food bar. I'll take 8 dark chocolate covered espresso beans, pop them in my pocket, so I can have my coffee while I'm walking, um, and then eat a food bar, and then you know um, snack until lunch, and then have some kind of lunch. Could be a cold soak thing, or it could be some string cheese and Triscuits, some vegan jerky, something like that, and then kind of snack until dinner. So,
Mm. I like how you say uh, everybody thinks a cold soak's a good idea until everybody else is cooking. Hot meals. I'm telling you, hot meals are a primo.
yeah, for only 3.5 ounces, it's like I'll carry that weight.
Do you do you go? So a lot of the people that I've backpacked with have the saying that you're allowed to take one luxury item. Have you ever done that? Is that something that you do?
Well, my stove's a luxury item.
Okay,
I
because you
mean,
can
because
you
I
can
could
live
do
without
cold
cooking
soak. I
things.
have done cold soak. It's just I just prefer not to. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
just makes life so much more enjoyable when you have
that's
a hot
that's my
meal.
that's my luxury item.
Well, uh, wrapping it up here. What is the gear? What's the gear that you've come up with over the years that you would be the most proud of, the most useful, the most helpful to others? What would it
I,
be?
I don't know the proudest or most helpful. My wife always kids me about the crotch pot, um,
I love the crotch
which
bar.
we say is the third way between cold soak and stove. It's crotch pot. Use your body heat to warm your
Hmm.
dinner. She says, "Yeah, that'll be on your gravestone." Like Glen Van Peski, inventor of the crotch pot. So that might be the most unique piece of gear. Um, I like how the Whisper turned out. It's
Agree.
more weight than I want to usually carry for shelter, but when there's bugs out, I like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. You state on your website that you have family in South Africa. Lots of family in South Africa. Have you ever seen or hiked the Drakensberg Grand Traverse?
No, but I think I read who was the guy? Shoot, I can see his face. Um, anyway, famous through hiker whose name is escaping me. Um, I read his account of it, and
There
of course, listen to
is,
the Power of One. So
yeah.
I kind
Well,
of
there's a YouTuber out there that my wife and I have fell in love with, and the reason that we have fell in love with him is because he doesn't talk. It's silent hiking, and so
nice.
it's all video. He has a guy who does music for him, but I love him because a lot of times you get on YouTube and everybody all they do is talk, and I'm like, I don't want to see that. I want to see where you are, and that way that'll tell me if I want to go there or not. And his name is Harmon Hoek, HarmenHoek. Incredible. He has won so many awards for his videos, but he did a video on the Drakensberg Ranch Traverse, and it is one of the most beautiful pieces I've ever seen. Some of the most beautiful countryside, and hiking through there. And when I said, "Where is this place?" and it's through Lesotho
Mm-hmm.
and South Africa, and I had no idea that places like that existed there. And so, look him up because if you ever just want to sit down and just enjoy a snack or a cup of coffee while watching a video, this guy, it is unreal beautiful. And it would if you ever go there to visit family, man, check it out because
Well, maybe you and I need to take the wives over there.
I'm in.
My wife would be happy to hang with the relatives and sip tea, and
uh,
I think she would probably it'd be a hard pass on that for her, but sounds like yours would be up for it. So,
My wife and I have a contest of how many continents we've been to, and I'm ahead of her by one. And so, South America or South Africa is one. She's never been to Africa. I've been to Africa, and
uh,
she's never been to Africa. So
she'd be
she
all
would
in
be
on that.
totally down for this, and I would too, especially after watching that video.
Yeah,
Oh
my
my
family
goodness!
there's always bugging us. We just saw them at a family reunion in Boulder or Golden this year, I think, well, maybe last year. Um, and yeah, they're always bugging us to come visit. So,
Yeah, my wife is on there. She said yes, she's ready. Oh my goodness. I just want to say to you, I am honored um, to sit down with you and just visit with you, get to know you a little better. We have so much in common. Um, and, a lot of it has not been said. My wife and I, when we were riding our bikes just last night, actually, and she had started reading the book, she said, he reminds me so much of you. How,
ah,
and it's not just we both drive a Subaru, it's, always busy, always thinking about this or that, or always wanting to learn how something works and how to make it better, or how you have this, run it through some questions about how you can uh, make it better or make it lighter or make it easier on yourself or do things for somebody else. But I love how um, you're always wanting to better yourself. You're never satisfied. You're always wanting to come up with something new. And I would love to be able to get in your mind and see inside that head and what's going on in there. It'd probably freak a lot of people out. I know. Um,
probably
uh,
looks a lot like the inside of your mind.
well, it could. Scrambled eggs is what I call it. But I just want to tell you, I appreciate you for taking time. But I don't want to fail you by not giving you an opportunity to talk about your faith. Um, you talk in your book about your gopher conversion, and I love this. But you become a Christian later in life, and the story is phenomenal, and I love it. But you receive in the introduction to your book, John Mackey gives you probably the greatest compliment that can be given to anybody that's a Christian. And he says, if all Christians were like Glenn and his amazing wife, Francie, the entire world would become Christian. And so, what I want to ask you is, with everything that you've been through, with all the stuff that you've gone through, and if you read the book, you'll get to experience a lot of um, the good, the bad, and the ugly about everything that's happened in your life with so many different things, the plane crash, your son, all these things. How would your life be different without faith?
I don't know. I don't know if we would have made it. I don't know if we'd still be married. Um, yeah, I mean, there were some hard times, and as an engineer, I'm always just like, okay, we'll figure it out. Work harder, work longer, get smarter, get better, figure it out. And then our middle son Derek, being born severely disabled,
Hmm.
I wasn't going to figure that out. Nothing
Yeah.
I can do to fix that. Um, but I think what makes it's when I was in junior high, um, I used to worry about growing up. Like, how does that work? Like, people have to, I mean, you have to go get a job and like find a place to live and get
Hmm.
money and like figure out what you're going to eat. And it just seemed like, oh my gosh. And then I finally figured out, I kind of looked around and I go, well, these guys are going to figure it out. So it must not be as hard as I'm making it. Uh,
Yeah.
but to me, it's just having, I guess having I think a secure future. So I don't, we don't, I mean, we're enjoying life. but we don't worry about death.
Mm.
And it gives us a different perspective, I think, on our stuff. Um, this is just stuff that we've been blessed with to bless others with.
Mm.
And we have plenty, but um, people are surprised when we can write a $10,000 check to fix something. And it's like,
Mm.
well, that's probably why you met us. That's probably why God put
Mm.
you in our path so we could fix this. Um, but just having um, that excitement every day of exploring, what does God have for me to do today? Who's He going to bring across my path?
Mm. Divine appointments.
Yeah,
Mm.
what are the appointments that I'm going to have today? And are they going to tell me something that I need to hear? Um, or am I going to be able to comfort them or help fix some problem they have? So,
Yeah. Well, I love how in the conclusion of your book, you talk about how this take less, do more actually makes you others focused. It it says you're able by taking less, you're able to do more, and the results benefit the entire community. And um, when you get that focus off yourself and what can I do for me, and what can I instead you're what can I do for others to help benefit others. Your life becomes so much more meaningful and filled with purpose that all the stuff that you don't have, that void of lack of stuff is filled with joy and contentment. Uh, you don't really need all the stuff because the joy's still there. Um, Besides, if you bought the stuff, it'd probably be too heavy, and then you wouldn't use it. So there you go.
that that is one that is actually one good thing about being having a severely light base pack weight is most new gear you are not interested in, because if it's
Yeah,
heavier, like if it's heavier than what I have, I'm really not interested, which saves me a lot of things on my list because
yeah,
mine's pretty light. So
true. Oh my goodness. What's next for Glen Van Peski? What can we be looking out for the rest of this year and beyond?
well, this year actually we're home for a couple days, and then we're heading out to another road trip for a week or a week and a half in Wally. Um, I've got to come back. I've got a backpacking trip for a friend of mine, a National Geographic photographer, and a bunch of his friends
Hmm.
in Sierra. I've got to go give a talk in Japan, giving like the keynote for some gear fest over there. Then we'll do a road trip to Texas. Maybe Texas is close to Arkansas, isn't it?
It's right up against us. Yes, sir.
Hmm. So maybe we have to swing wide on that one. You never
That'd
know.
be nice. We'll be down
Um,
there. We're going down to do some backpacking in Big Bend over Christmas.
I've been backpacking in Big Bend.
Big Bend is an amazing place in the winter because it doesn't get that cold.
Yeah,
And we've been down there 2 Christmases in a row, and we love it down there. It's fun. Uh,
that's nice. Wait till I
yeah,
take you up in the mountains here, though. That'll.
I can imagine. I've never been. I've never been. I've only been to California once. I've never been to Oregon. Never been to Washington. Never been up in that part of the Sierra. So definitely looking forward to that.
It's pretty nice. And then
Pretty nice.
I don't know, another projects. I mean, I'm talking with Carol at Thrower about doing a hike that'll be videoed, because I often, people they can watch the What's in My Pack videos, but it's different than I wish everyone just like, let's go out for 3 days and you can see like how 5 pound base pack weight actually works. And I have
Hmm.
everything you have. I'm just as comfortable as you are. I'm just as safe as you are, but I have a fraction of the weight.
Right.
And so our thought is she has a bunch of thru hiker friends that want to get lighter. And so we're thinking of getting a little trip together and then having a video guy along so, it could reach more people and they could kind of see on an extended basis like
That'd
how
be
everything
great.
works, the
That'd
tips
be
and
great.
tricks. Working on that. We'd like to take Wally through Alaska on the Dempster Highway to the Arctic
Mm.
Circle. Actually, I'm in touch with the guys who I rode across the country with in 1976, and there's talk of doing a 50-year complete the loop trip of getting on our
Oh,
bicycles and
wow.
going from west to east. Still gotta enroll Francie in that. She's like, yeah, she's not a fan of me being gone that long. So I got a year to work on it.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking of like study guide kind of companions to the book, maybe a faith
Mm.
based one, a leadership based one, um, and then maybe a short book on the power of handwritten notes, something like that. I don't know.
Mm.
Those are just rattling around.
Amazing. I look forward to it. Now, you do have an Instagram, but you're not on there a whole lot. You don't post a lot on Instagram. The best way to keep up with you is through your website, glenvanpeski.com. So I want to encourage everybody to check that out. And a lot of the stuff that you've seen on here, that's where I got my information from. So you can get more information on there, along with a lot of videos and things like that. So make sure and get on there and do that and keep up with it. Read the book. Read the book. It is incredible. It's life changing. You will get things out of there that um, great examples to follow, and I truly appreciate that. Um, and I appreciate you again for being on here. And we've gone way over time, but I had to make use of this time, and I apologize for keeping you so long
That's
and
okay.
asking you too many questions. I appreciate that, but I want to thank everybody for joining us on the podcast. We had several people get on here. We had a lot of people on Instagram that were watching this live that didn't get a chance to comment or anything like that. But anyway, thank you for being here. And I just want to say, I look forward to meeting you one day. And I can promise you this, if we ever get a chance to hike together, which I hope and pray that we do, I got dibs on your wag bag. I got it. I got dibs.
Uh,
Oh, I love it. Hey, everybody, have a wonderful week. Glenn, stick around, and we appreciate it. But we're going to end this live stream. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a wonderful week.